Greetings, everyone, and welcome to this month's edition of Ask the Amigos. This is
Yeah,
where
oh
we
man.
answer questions from our Discord community. They post them in the Ask the Amigos channel, and we answer them. We got a bunch of great questions this week, Aaron. We're going to start things off from the living legend, the Slow Norris. He says, last week, Aaron streamed some games and had a custom Amigos logo at the bottom of the screen. It was Psygnosis-esque with a nifty Amigo Aaron logo ball. Who did it? And could one pay for a personalized version?
Well, I'm about to let you come behind the curtain, Slow Norris. I do all the art, and by do I mean I rip off everything I possibly can. Then I have to do all the extra art and manipulate things. And so that particular piece of art, much like all the art that I do, all the logos I make, all the crap, all the streams, backgrounds, they were all made by me. With stuff that I've yanked off the internet, and then I load up. Listen, some people like their Photoshop boat. Some people like their Turbo Paint programs or
GIMP,
D-Paint.
if you will.
Not me. Call me a nostalgic type. I go with the old Paint 3D. And so all the art you've ever seen on any of these shows that I did was done with Paint 3D Paint on the Microsoft 3D Paint boat.
Classic.
And I
Classic.
did that one. I will say, not to toot my own horn, boat, but I was very proud of that Amiga streaming backdrop.
Yeah.
And I came across that. You know what really triggered it was I found a place that was a Psygnosis random cover generator, and I was like, man, I'm gonna make a whole stream setup that looks like a Psygnosis box, and that's what
awesome.
I did.
Yeah. All right. Jonah asks, if Boat and Aaron could swap their brains and jump into each other's bodies, would you do it? There's no going back.
Who's healthier, Boat, me or you? I
Well,
mean, with all the with various physical ailments and whatnot, who is the healthier? I'm older, obviously, so I would probably swap. I think I might swap. But the thing is, you never know what's going on that Boat doesn't talk about, and vice versa.
right.
You know,
I
so
mean, look at you. You live the life of a champion.
that's
Like
true.
most people would want your life. You've got a great kid. You've got a rockin' pad. You've got you got a freaking stream of income from talking about video games that you love playing. It's a great life.
It's not bad. That part's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
So do
I
you,
mean,
though.
the
You've got a
problem
great
is,
wife. You've got
yeah,
a
the
bigger
problem
pad.
is that my life is also pretty good.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I'd want to leave, the good things I've got. Now, if I could do it for like a week, heck yeah, I'd love to live. The fact that out of both of us, you are the one that is universally adored by everybody in our Discord community, and I'm the ultimate heel. So I'd love to step into that role just to see what it's like, just to receive that nonstop adulation that you get, that hero worship
You're
on
an
the
idiot.
Discord. I'd love to see that, but I'd probably want to jump back into my body at some point.
You'd
after
want
that.
to jump back pretty quick when you came home from a full day of work in prison and had to do the dishes, the laundry, to cook the food.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd probably-
You might be onto something
Yeah.
there. Chris Folds asks, have you ever swam with dolphins or sharks? Aaron?
I mean, probably. I've swam in the ocean, if
No,
that
but that's
counts.
not what he's saying. He's saying, like, have you ever gone on one of those, like, specialized excursions where you swim and you're petting the
Listen,
dolphin or
here's
you're
the
in the
thing.
cage?
They don't just give that crap away. That costs straight up money, yo.
You're right.
I don't got dolphin petting money. I go pet like catfish and muskies and crap like that. That's not the dolphins. Are you kidding me?
Have you ever been catfish noodling?
Oh God, are you nuts? People lose fingers doing that. Hell no. I can do
I
that.
guarantee you the vast, vast majority of our expat chat has no idea what we're talking about.
It's where you basically go on rivers, and there are holes in the side of the rivers where catfish live, and you reach down in there and you just grab them by the mouth and yank them out of there, and they'll
let the
bite you.
catfish, yeah, you let the catfish bite and envelop your hand in its mouth, and then you pull it out and you hold it aloft like a trophy.
To be frank, I don't like fish. I don't like fishing. I don't like worms, for that matter. So I don't know. I don't. I'm not a good West Virginian. I don't like hunting either. I don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, I've never swam with the dolphins or the sharks, and a lot of it is I've never wanted to spend the money to do it because it's a short time period and it's a lot of dough. I would not want to, even if it were free, I would not want to swim the sharks.
Hell no.
Anytime it's like, hey, be in this cage so the shark doesn't eat you.
Yeah, that's what they want you to think. That's
Right.
where the shark goes to the bars and it eats the heck out of you. Screw
That's
that.
right. That's right. And then what they do is they just sink the cage and they pretend like the whole thing never happened.
What a way to go out. What happened to John? Oh, he wanted to pet the sharks. The shark got him and ate him. What a dumb way to die. People would be like, what was Boat thinking? No way.
You don't want that on your tombstone.
No. Killed in cage by shark. What a dummy.
All right. Lob Terminator, Finland's Finest asks, was there something in your life where you can say you were ahead of most others? Like the stereotypical hipster joke, I liked X before it was cool type of deal.
Tons and tons and tons of stuff. Oh, my God. I mean, I've been ahead of everybody. I don't want to toot my own horn.
Really?
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, it is what it is. It's all technical stuff, but I've been ahead of people for years. I was ahead of people when it comes to bootlegging. I was ahead of people when it came to piracy. I was ahead of people when it came to technology, hooking your computer up to your TV, having a computer in your car, MP3. I was ahead of everybody on that. No one, my friends all thought I was an idiot. I distinctly remember telling the boys, it's like, yeah, he goes, I was like, this Xbox Media Center is awesome. You can watch a lot of stuff off the internet for free. Oh my God, Aaron, what is it with you and these computers? You're an idiot. And like a month later, Matt and Chad, I'm talking about you, they were like, oh man, this thing's great. And like I didn't exist. I was like, you guys laughed me out of the room when I suggested doing this. You know, cracking stuff, hacking plays. That whole, I was way ahead of the curve on that stuff. Now eventually the curve passed me by and it beat me down. So now no one cares. Something else I learned, being ahead of the curve, no one cares. Because the second the curve catches up with you, they just tell you to go to hell anyway. They pretend you weren't ahead of it. They're like, oh, I was always up in the curve. They weren't. They were way back. This is a sore point with me, I guess is what I'm saying. What about you?
I've always been one of those people that hate, especially music people, because I'm around so many music people. They're like, yeah, I was into them way back when they were nothing. It's like, you know, do you get a star for that? I mean, what do you derive out of that? It's like you're taking other people's joy away from the music because you happen to like it first. Anyway, for me,
that's true though. But I want to talk about that point for a second. But I mean, I will say, several people I know, my buddy Mark and my buddy Jason, come to mind. Jason was like, listen, check out this band, Guns N' Roses. I was like, what is this crazy stuff? And he was into them like years before I'd heard of them. And my buddy Mark was into like Smashing Pumpkins and stuff years before anybody had heard of them. And I was like, man, you're nuts. No one even knows what the hell you're talking about. Well, and eventually everyone knew. So some people do have some keen insight on the musical comings and goings.
Yeah.
You know,
what I don't like is the way that people rub it in as if like you as a newcomer fan are somehow less of a fan because you didn't know about them when they were
small. Do people do that?
Like you wouldn't believe. I used to work in a record store, man.
Music snobs?
I dealt with these people all the time. Yeah.
Just smack them upside the head. What are they going to do? They're music geeks. They're not going to do nothing.
Now, you know, we're talking, when you answer a question like this, we're talking essentially about our social circle, you know, the group of friends that we ran with when we were ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
For me, I was the first person that I knew that had a website, you know, and now I'm not saying that I was a web dev or anything, but I went into the AOL area where you could create your own website, and I put something up and people were like, holy cow, you have a website? That's insane. And then everybody did it. So that was the one time where I was ahead of the curve. But most of the time, I mean, like, what do you think about like all the stuff, like now we do so many different things from our friends. It's like, well, we were the first people to use OBS and have a podcast, but none of our friends still
our friends,
have a podcast.
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
Yeah. And so
well,
it's a different deal now. With the internet, everybody's done everything forever.
But see, now it's inconvenient. Before it was a bragging point, but now you're like, I'll give you, just like we were talking about. I got TeamSpeak regulars coming up. It'd be awesome if one of those guys could just take OBS and start streaming that sucker without me, but they don't know how. So now I want them to come ahead. Get ahead of me. For God's sakes, don't let me lead. I'm an idiot.
Now, we're going to move on to the next question. The next question comes to us from Jason, the Great White North's own. He says, is there something that you do today which was something one of your parents did that you swore you'd never do?
Be bald.
Your dad's not bald.
My dad's bald as a cue ball.
Is he really?
He's been bald since he was like 17.
I don't know if I've ever seen him without a hat on.
Yeah, there's a reason for that, Boat.
Mm.
Because he's bald. I've told this story, but I'll tell it again. The old man used to have the old comb over, Boat.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
And it was long, right? Like, picture like hair that's like, it's right here. And
right.
if you pulled it down this way, it would hang down like riffraff, okay? And he'd take that whole gimmick and be like, whoosh. And I distinctly remember and how much I loved it. I would come up to him, and I would literally take that big bundle of hair and throw it right in his face. And I'd laugh. Nice comb over, dude. And he'd be like, I remember distinctly going, it will happen to you. Just like that. I was like, no way, man. You know,
you and your long flowing locks at the time.
I did have long flowing locks
Yeah.
and bangs down to here, the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Man, but I knew in high school, I'm like, well, I'm boned because it started coming out. And here I am today. And I've been bald for decades. So, yeah, that's the one thing I didn't want to happen, but I had no stop. That was the way it was. What about you?
Probably my enjoyment of golf. When I was a kid, I used to hate when Dad would put on golf because it lasted forever.
Yeah.
You'd put it on at like 2 and it would go off at like 9. And I'm like, come on, we got to watch something else around here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but now I do the same thing. Sunday afternoon, you flip it on. You sort of exist in a semi-dozed pattern on the couch. It's great. It's just calm.
That's the official sport of Coco Talk.
Yeah.
You know, something else, and this is more in line with the question. I remember when I was a kid, the old man and my mom would take me on these ridiculous car rides. They still take these. They would drive for like 6-7 hours and just be driving around random places. Like we weren't going anywhere. We never got a car. It used to drive me nuts to do that. And then that's something, and eventually I started doing the exact same thing. Just random car rides. Now, at least now my random car rides, I'm going to a prison or something. But they were real bad about that. That used to drive me nuts.
Barkbit mentioned something too. I've got a buddy that posts on Facebook about the Grammys. He's real into the new popular music scene. I went on the sort of like the site, like some website that had all of the artists that were on there. And when I was a kid, my dad would always say, well, I don't know who any of these people are. And I was like, how can you be so out of touch with popular music that you don't recognize at least one of these acts? Well, I'm there right now.
I will say, in your defense, Boat, okay, artists don't turn over like they do now since the disco era. I mean, there's a lot of turnover. Don't get me wrong. There are some artists that keep coming back around, but there's a million artists that come and go. It's hard to keep up, man, unless you're right on top of it. So people are like, oh, you're out of touch, man. Listen, I listen to a lot of stuff, but the truth of the matter is these people come and go. And something else, if you've got an artist you just straight up don't like that much, she may be cranking out the hits, but if you don't like her, you're not going to listen to her. You know, that hasn't changed. And so if you're not into what's going on now, the direction of music, you can't be faulted for being out of touch if you don't like it and don't keep up with it, you know? So there you go.
Chris Folds asks, can you guess what any of these food dishes are? Okay, so I'm going to tell you what the dish is.
Why do I have to be quizzed?
Because I'm the one that's got the Discord channel.
Damn it.
So I'm going to tell you what the dish is, and I'm going to guess too because I don't know. It's okay. The first one is coddled eggs.
I would assume it's some sort of dish involving eggs.
Yeah, I have no idea. It is eggs that are slowly cooked in a small dish in a watered bath. That makes sense. Is that
like a boiled egg?
Yeah, that's it. I think it's another term for a boiled egg. How about a Welsh rabbit?
You know, I've heard that term. It involves carrots, doesn't it?
No, it's actually hot cheese sauce over toasted bread. There is no rabbit.
I have heard that term, and I knew there was no rabbit in there.
Where do you stand on nacho cheese?
I stand right in front of the bowl with my face in it.
Okay, so you like it. You'd approve of this dish.
Yeah.
Lady fingers.
I know what that is. Those are very, very fine delicacy that no one knows around here. They're pastries, beautiful, delicious pastries.
You got it. Sweet sponge cakes in the shape of fingers.
I told you that story about the baker when I told him to get me some lady fingers. They didn't know what they were. They gave me those stupid freaking cream-filled cones. What the hell is going on there?
Okay, here's the last one, Aaron. Stargazy pie.
I have no clue on that one, Boat.
This one I had no idea either. I like the name though.
Yeah.
It's a Cornish dish. I also don't know what those words mean.
Cornish.
Of pilchards. I don't know what pilchards are.
Nope.
Bakes in a pastry crust where their heads sticking out the top. I don't understand any of that.
I don't
I'm
want
going
to
to read the
eat
whole
that.
thing one more time for the benefit of our listeners in the UK, because I'm sure they know what I'm talking about. Cornish dish. Boy, it's even hard to say. Cornish dish of pilchards bakes in a pastry crust with their heads sticking out the top.
First of all, that's disgusting. I don't want to eat anything in a pie that's got a head.
Head sticking out the top.
We talked about this the other night on stream, I believe. Meat pies don't cut it here in the States. Unless you're eating a chicken pot pie. That's not the way we roll. I don't know what a pilchard is, right? And I don't want something I don't know what it is staring up at me as I begin to start eating it.
Anytime that I've got to deal with a pilchard head, no,
pilchards are fish, they say. Fish. I also don't like fish.
You want a fish head sticking out the top?
What's the name of that dish again, Boat?
Stargazy pie.
How the hell does that name fit a fish head pie? That's the stupidest name I've ever heard. Get it out.
Paul, a.k.a. Hermsky, asks, 1 month later in the same question asked, are you any closer to succumbing to the Mr. Crew? Paul, I'm glad you asked.
He has succumbed.
Approximately 2 days after swearing off the Mr. forever on the last episode of Ask the Amigos, I purchased the Mr. and I've since recorded many videos about the Mr. with one coming up next week. It's become the love of my life. It's definitely the best retro gaming purchase I've made. I wouldn't say it's the best retro gaming thing that's happened to me in the past year. That would be getting the Coco 3, but it is right up there.
Don't forget about the Amiga
Coco
1000. That was also an awesome thing you got in the last year.
Yeah, that's true. That's
By
true.
the way, I've never seen someone that considered his own opinion so invaluable as you. I mean, you will turn on yourself. You're your own traitor. You're your own Judas. You backstab yourself. I've never seen anybody do that in my life. You badmouthed it. You're like, no, I don't need this. I got all this original hardware. I remember that, and I'll look at you. Disingenuous.
Hey, remember, I'm the wizard of hypocrisy. That's what they call me.
Congratulations.
Crazy Loomis asks, Mars is now the only planet in the solar system that is solely populated by robots from Earth.
Yeah.
Under what circumstances would you consider moving there permanently? So let me try and grok this. Okay, so let's pretend like, I guess, that robots roam around Mars, and you can go there and you can live with the robots.
Well, yeah, he means like rovers and stuff. That's what he's talking about. No. No, I wouldn't, because there's nowhere to live, there's no atmosphere, and there's no vegetation. So no. What would it take to get me there?
If the circumstances were different, because the question is, under what circumstances would you consider moving there?
If Mars were terraformed, settled, and I could live there as comfortably as I do on Earth, that I might give it a whirl. But otherwise, no. Because I'm here now. I'm already happy.
You'd have to be offered a better deal than you currently have. And I feel like I've got a pretty good deal going on right here.
Now wait a minute. If someone terraformed Mars, okay,
right,
settled Mars, fully developed Mars, and then they set up a government that worked, I would go to Mars. How about that? If I didn't have to put up with a bunch of crap, if every day I woke up and I was like, geez, what a great government. I'm living like great. This is great. Everybody's happy. There's no jerks. Then I would go. Yeah.
So basically, if Utopia was created on Mars, then I'd be on the next plane out.
Yes.
Batman asks, following the successful launch of the Amiga Addict magazine, I thought I'd ask, have you guys seen copies of the recently revived Crash and Zap 64 magazines? And if so, what are your thoughts?
We were sent some of those, weren't we, Bode?
We got the Crash Annual from Roshi. He sent us each a copy. Yeah. I'm a big fan. All of these revival magazines, they're all done with a great deal of care and love. And the quality shows through. I haven't seen the actual physical Amiga Addict, but after watching you open it last night and I could just tell from the glossiness of the pages.
Yeah, you're a big fan of the gloss. It doesn't matter. It could be blank, and you'd be like, oh, I can lick the pages.
As long as it's got that heavy paper, if I can smell it, that's all I care about.
Here's the thing, Boatster. When these magazines come back to life, they're not coming back because, hey, we're going to make a crap load of money. It's because some people are so dedicated to the cause that they're willing to risk financial ruin and all their time being wasted and all this other crap and all their labor to make something that comes out that they love. They're not going to put out a dud.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They're pimping their heart in these things. Do you think the guy that makes the new Crash annual, do you think this guy's going to the money bank? No, he's not. No one is.
His final question is, what classic gaming magazine would you like to see revived? And I'm going to expand upon that a little bit and ask you, if you could make your own classic gaming magazine around a system, what would you choose?
Well, first I want to answer the question, which is I would love to see. There's two magazines that come to mind. One, it would require literally a quantum shift in the market. But the original, the old school, thick as a phone book computer shopper was great. It wasn't around one computer, but it was just awesome to have all those choices. But if I was going to go computer-centrically, one of my favorite magazines, I love these magazines, was Rainbow. Rainbow magazine for the color computer. God, it was good. It was thick. It had all kinds of cool game reviews. It wasn't like Hot Cocoa, that crappy
Garbage.
magazine.
Yeah.
This thing was the bomb. It was an awesome magazine, so that's the one I would pick. There were tons of good Amiga magazines that I liked, but I'd have trouble picking like my favorite. It would probably be Amiga. I don't know, Amiga Power maybe. I liked it an awful lot, but they were all pretty good. I thought as a younger guy. Now, what was your question to slant on this? Say that again, Boat.
So if you could choose, well, you kind of already answered it. If you could choose a system, any classic computer that you would like to have a Amiga Addict-like magazine around,
I got
what would
one.
you choose? Okay.
The Vectrix. I would love the Vectrix to have a cool magazine. There's a lot of homebrew for it and stuff. It never had jack squat. So I'm going to say
Right.
Vectrix, Boat.
That's a good choice.
What do you think?
I really like Antic Magazine. I've been reading the heck out of those.
Slow
since
Norris
Slow
set you
Norris.
up.
Yeah, he set me up for life. But I don't know that I need more of that. Part of the charm of that magazine is that it is of its era.
Yeah.
It's written like a 1980s magazine. That's one of the things that I love about the Amiga show, Anthony Jarvis's show, is that it looks like it came right out of the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult
thing. It's got a VCR
thing
feel to it, doesn't it?
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, boy, I don't know. I really don't know what I would choose to bring back. Actually, I know that there is an Apple II magazine. I think it's called Juice GS or something like that.
That's a horrible
But I would
name,
like
Boat.
to. I wouldn't mind seeing a gaming-related Apple II magazine, just because that's a platform that I really don't know anything about.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see that. Of course, the Atari 8-bit too. The problem is I like it all, man. I like it all.
Another magazine I really enjoyed, and it was not out for a long time, but I thought it was a high quality magazine, and it covered the era very well. Was Next magazine? Remember Next Gen?
Yeah.
That was a great magazine. It was another beautiful, colorful, glossy
That was
magazine.
right out of the UK too.
And it was written by people that weren't morons, and they weren't always like Rainbows and Sunshine.
Right.
I thought that was a good magazine too. I was sad when that one went away. There's been there's been some pretty decent computer magazines over the years, and then there's been some I didn't like. Like I never liked Compute that much. It was one that was very popular. I liked typing in programs for it, but they never had anything for the Coco, so I ignored it for the most part. But yeah, so I think we covered some good ones there, though. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Super Famiking asks, further to there was a heated debate about which was better, Italian or American style pizza on the Discord. Aaron, do you go for Italian style or American style pizza?
Well, what's the difference? Can you explain the difference to me?
So Italian style pizza it's almost like it's a lot plainer. Like you don't get like 87 million types of toppings, and the dough itself is also of a different consistency. I've only had Italian style pizza a couple times in my life.
From your description, why would I want that?
But but here's the thing. I'm going to answer. For me, I'm going with American style because that's what we've got around here.
It's good eating,
and it's cheap, it's good. And if you're pounding down beers during Cocoa Talk, there's nothing better than devouring a whole large pizza from Pizza Hut.
Holy, I can't do that. My God.
Oh, I do it
every
week.
Explode. You eat a whole pizza?
Sometimes.
How am I the fat guy? Why am I getting screwed genetically? Everyone can eat more than me, but I'm the big tub. By the way, I'm having pizza at the exact conclusion of this particular event. But I'm going to go with you, not knowing, just from your description. Now, there are different types of pizza in the States that I like more. And someone on the chat, the Buckster, Buck Owens, renowned
that's our next
enthusiast.
question. So stay tuned.
Oh,
for
okay.
that.
Go ahead and crank it up.
What is better, New York style or Chicago style pizza?
I don't know what New York style is.
Okay,
And
so
I'm from
New York
New Jersey.
style. New York style is a chewy crust, and it's a large piece. The physical slice is probably 12 inches long. You almost have to fold it in half to eat it.
Like a Sbarro's type deal.
You can't really get New York style pizza around here, but that's what it is.
Well, I like.
It's almost actually the closest one is probably like if you get like a Geno's extra large. You know how it's kind of soggy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sad thing is sometimes I crave that. It's disgusting as it is.
Chicago style. Hey, you know what Chicago style is?
Oh, yes, I do know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Chicago, the deep dish Chicago style pizza. That's good eating, Boat.
For
But
me,
I would never get rid of either one of the pizzas. I would lovingly embrace New York, Chicago, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, I love them all.
The best slice of pizza I can remember having in my life was in London. I was walking around London, and we stopped in some random place, and of course I was drunk out of my mind, so that might have had something to do with it. But it was so good, just like walking around London and seeing like all of the different things that eat in this pizza. It was great.
There's nothing better than being liquored up and then having good food.
Yeah.
It's funny you should mention it because I went on a long drive this week for work. It was so far away that it took me to a White Castle. Mm-hmm. Which is a very
you got to drive a long way to get to one of those.
That's right. It was 150 miles or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I had White Castle, and I used to have White Castle quite a bit. And I can tell you there was a time in my life where being boozed up, having White Castle and a chocolate shake, that was it. That was the pinnacle.
Doesn't get any better.
Well, it gets better now. I'm going on record. The White Castle burgers have deteriorated. And I mean that. I think I mean that in every sense of the word.
Well, they were never awesome to begin with.
Well, they had a consistency that I was comfortable with, and that consistency has been lost.
Here's what I used to do, because when I was in college, I lived much closer to a White Castle because I went to college in Ohio, and I used to get the sack of 20 and a large Barg's red cream soda. Not Barg, sorry, Big Red.
I had a Big Red. That's what I got. That's what I got.
Let me tell you, you want to play Russian roulette with your colon? Yeah. Eat a sack of 20 and a large Big Red.
20?
Yeah.
The thing about it, speaking of Big Red soda, I'm sure no one has this, but
no.
Never has a soda tasted like nothing when you drank it, but then the aftertaste tastes like something. It's the damnedest thing. It's weird. Like drinking Whiteout with a cherry kicker. It's the dark. I've never seen like it, man.
Yeah. Jonah asks, carpeted or uncarpeted bathrooms?
Uncarpeted.
Yeah. The only name a place that you've been. Do you know any relatives that have a carpeted bathroom?
We used to have a carpeted bathroom back with my mom. Way back. We had carpet everywhere. That's
my grandparents, my dad's parents in Louisville. They have a carpeted bathroom, and I never got over it. My grandfather still lives there. I never get over the weirdness of it. It's just weird having carpet. And I know that like lots of places don't have carpet at all. I'm a big carpet guy. I know the trend is to have like hardwood floors or like the laminate hardwood floors or whatever. I still like carpet in a living room. I like carpet in a bedroom. But in a bathroom, no way.
I like rugs. I don't like carpet. I don't like carpet at all. We had shag carpet growing up. That was what everybody had.
Yeah.
No good. I never liked it, and it's also once it gets stained, you're boned. At least hardwood floors, you got worst case scenario, you could sand that sucker down if you have to.
And if you've got pets, carpet is no good.
Oh my God! No, and my pets, they're not doing my hardwood any favor either. They're killing me.
Christian Russo asks, let's see. He recently shared a recent awkward moment. What is the most embarrassing moment or faux pas that's ever happened to you, Aaron?
The most... Well, I'm not going to tell it on here. I can tell you that right now.
He said, and Christian does say, if your number one is too embarrassing, then we'll take the second most.
I'm sure I've mentioned this, but it's funny. You took your belt test today for karate. Fingers crossed, by the way, Boat.
Thank you.
I used to go to these tournaments, karate tournaments back in the day. You've probably heard of them.
Yeah.
When people used to gather in large numbers.
I've been to many also.
And what you do is there's for what is called a kata, which is a Japanese word for form. You would memorize a series of moves that have been handed down for hundreds of years. And you'd do these katas for a million times, all right? And then you would perform a kata at the tournament, and you would be judged on the kata. And then you would get a trophy if your kata was good enough to win, right? Well, listen, I was a tubby doofus at a gi. There's not a kata made that's going to get me over the pay window. You know what I'm saying, Boat? But I still, we had to do them. I was there to fight. I was built for fighting, not for grace, Boat.
Right. You're a fighter, not a lover.
But you still have to do it. So when you do these katas, you got to bow onto the floor. Then you walk up to the judges. You bow to the judges. You say something like, you strike a fighting stance. And you say...
Don't pretend like you don't remember what you used to say. Say it.
You say... Hello, I'm Aaron Dowdy, Kostumi Sei-kan, Settlor Suji Karate. Today I will be performing Fuku Got a Itch. And then they would bow to you, and you would clap your hands together, bow, and then you'd back up to give yourself space, and you'd do your kata. Okay?
Yeah.
So I remember a big tournament. It was like Dayton or something. I ran up, same shtick. I ran up to the judges. I said my shtick. I went back, and I botched the kata. Now, you're taught if you botch the kata, you stop the kata. You walk up to the judge and be like, I'd like to perform this kata again from the beginning, and bow. And they'd give you the queen in one of these.
Yeah.
Well, I went up and said, I botched the kata, and when I did it, I bowed, and when I went like that and knocked my glasses in the judge's lap. And I was, the whole arena's watching me, you know. So Tubby Doofus in pajamas knocks glasses in the judge's lap. The judges laughed, not good. I go back to start the kata again. At this point, I know, I was like, this is completely fruitless. I screwed it up again. I made up the ending, and I got the hell out of there. And I told Dad, I was like, start the car. I remember, we're gone. That's one of the more embarrassing. And of course, the other one that I think it was speaking of White Castle, the Cincinnati Tropicana performance where I'd eaten a White Castle before the big show. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So what about you, Boat?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of bathroom related embarrassing situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. There, you either have a bathroom emergency or your diet, precludes a lot of flatulence. I remember, you're a little bit too old for this, but later on at the middle school, they were building the new middle school, but it hadn't been built, and there were 8 billion kids at Hurricane Middle School. Yeah. So what they did was they set up 10 to 20,000 of these portable buildings outside in the back.
Yeah.
And the bathrooms in these portable buildings didn't have what you call a whole lot of audio, insulation.
Right.
And so whenever you were in there, everybody knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And there was one time in particular where it got bad, and I didn't hear the end of it for a long time. It's
funny how many times the bathroom goes into play with the embarrassing situations. I try my best to never use the restroom in that capacity abroad.
Yeah.
You got to be careful. But sometimes what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? When you got to go, you got to go. All right. Curtis Boyle asks, who draws the 8-bit caricatures of you two for the various show intros? And how did that come about? Curtis, back in soon after we started the show, I think it was probably 2016, about a year after we started the show, I wanted to have some pixel art of us. And so I went on Fiverr, which is a site that you can hire freelance artists to do stuff for you.
They're still around?
They are. Fiverr's still around. And I paid a guy from Italy. I think I paid him $60. And he created both of our visages as well as all the animations that we have. If you go on our Patreon page, you can see us like talking and laughing and stuff like that.
We don't use that one that much anymore.
Not anymore.
That was cute. Yeah.
It's the deal of the century. This guy was amazing, and he was cheap. Unfortunately, he soon left the building. He soon was no longer accepting Fiverr stuff. So when I did the most recent round of drawings, because I wanted to update with us having some more expressions and also my new hairless mode, I ended up getting a guy from the Czech Republic to draw all those things. So Fiverr is your friend if you're looking for any kind of art. These guys work incredibly cheap, and they do excellent work because they depend on your good feedback. So Fiverr.com.
Did they do Brent as well?
They did Brent as well. That was a third guy. I can't remember who did Brent, but yeah, good
It's
job.
amazing because
they
look like they were all done by the same guy. It's quite remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot of mileage out of those, haven't we, Boat?
We have. They've been good to us. Mitsuyama asks, if you were leaders of your own cult, what are some of the edicts you would issue to your followers?
Why don't you take that one first, Boat? You're sort of a culty fellow.
Well, thank you. If I had a cult, obviously we're going outside, reality where, I would probably not be a cultist. I would probably follow my religion, which I guess you could call a cult. It just depends on your perspective. But if I was going to be your typical cult leader, I would be sort of like your Maharishi, from the 60s with John and Paul and all that stuff. I'd have my ashram set up somewhere, have all the groves of the mangoes and the fruits and everything, and I would walk around in this long white robe, right? And I'd have just like a train of 10 to 30 young ladies between the ages of, say, 18 and 23, in my procession. And then, I would just sort of, the edicts I would issue would be, just sort of platitudes like, remember, if you give me, like some money, then you're going to have a good life.
You're going to run a cult, win people and that's over. What you're saying? It would
lend, yeah. And then, basically people would flock to me because of my presence. People do that already. You know how people flock to me. And yeah, that's what I would do. How about you, Aaron?
There was a time, you're not going to believe this because you know me. I'm happy. I'm your good buddy, your chum, your bosom companion, amigo, Aaron. Mm-hmm. Everybody's pal. There was a time where I could pinpoint the time in my life where I had the most jack. All right. And the most jack I had was, here's the way I look at it, and this is cult-like, that's why I mention it. When you could get people to put themselves in stupid, uncomfortable situations solely on the basis that you told them to do it, that's a cult, and you're the leader of that cult. And I had that sort of power. It was awesome. And it was when we were filming Vladkula back in the day, my horror film.
This was in Lexington, right?
That's right. I had people, like, embrace, dress up like idiots, cover themselves in ketchup, lay in the mud, bite each other, fight each other, all on camera. I could do whatever I wanted to these suckers, and they would do it. And all of this happened at 3 or 4 in the morning. I had these people follow me into my basement so I could perform a completely made up house cleansing ritual of spirits. I made it all up on the fly just to see if I could get suckers to do it. They did. That's what a cult leader does. They don't have a motto or a plan. A proper cult leader is just doing it just to see if they could get away with it. And that's what I like to do. There's no parade of hot chicks, see that crap. You're manipulating suckers at the base level. It's power over other individuals. That's a cult leader, man.
Have you queued up Vladkula for us to watch a scene or two of that right here now on Ask the Amigos?
It's amazing. I know. I didn't foresee Vladkula coming up, but I believe it's on YouTube somewhere. I'll link it up.
If anything is screaming for a watch along on Discord, it is Vladkula. The Chud was not involved in this, though.
No,
which is
the
sort of
Chud
sad.
was not involved. Chud, I don't have that kind of jack on the Chud. He's a pretty independent, free thinker, Boat. But yeah, I felt like you don't want to know what I could get away with. It was awesome. I've even got footage of the home cleansing, and it's the stupidest thing. The fact that people did what I wanted, I wish I had that kind of power again, because it was intoxicating, awesome power, Boat. I'd love to be a cult leader.
Well, we all have dreams. Chris Folds asks, if you could make one species of animal talk, which would it be?
That's a great question. He's in the cult, Boat. He's in. If I could make one species of animal talk, what about you? What do you got a thought on that?
I'd go with dogs. I'd love to have a dog talk.
See, that's the easy answer.
What are you going to say? You can't be anything that you're eating. You don't want pigs talking.
How trippy do you want this? Because if you're going to do it, let's get trippy. What if, like, gnats talked? Big swarms of talking gnats. Think about it. Think of how disturbing. That's a Cthulhu level insanity buster.
Yeah. In fact, like when you in a horror film, when they want to ratchet up the tension, it sort of is. You do hear that sort of zzz, that sort of buzzing that
Yeah, but they
the
would
gnats.
talk.
Well,
Think
yeah,
about
but
all that
they'd
buzzing
be
replaced
saying
by
words and buzzing.
because what do gnats want to do? They want to land on you, and then they want to like bite you or whatever, right?
Eat ya.
That's right. And so they're what are they going to talk about in their group? Let's bite him. Let's bite him. Hundreds and thousands of things saying get him all at once, and they're swarming your head. You know.
What do you do when you get a bunch of gnats swarming around you?
What do I do?
Yeah.
I just sit there. I mean, what
you
do?
You just take it. You don't do one of these moves.
Like a horse.
That's what I do.
I just say
sometimes I try and outmaneuver them. I do my dip.
Yeah. Does that work?
No. Let's see. Jonah asks, back in the day, we had the wrestlers or the muscular baby oiled guys on TV, like Arnie or John Rambo. The common man tended to be a skinny, pasty guy or overweight. What are your thoughts on the younger generations now? Everyone is ripped, Botoxed, and every guy looks like an Adonis. We can't compete with this. I don't know where the question is.
I think the question was, what do you think of the new level of heroes that we've had?
Oh, okay.
By the way, the new level of heroes is exactly like the old level. If you look back in the 80s, it's not like there was a bunch of tubby doopuses that were in all the action movies. You know what I'm saying? You got the Big Lebowski. You didn't see the Big Lebowski using his whip to jump over a river or anything. You know, he was a big tubby oaf who drank booze. You know, bam. But when it comes to I don't see much of a difference. I mean, I think the hero movies are literally, that's one thing. If there's a constant on Earth, in America anyway, it's that these action-packed movies are full of beautiful, chiseled Adonises, hot, voluptuous women who, and the rest of the movie doesn't really mean that much. They're just going to go out there and do some stuff. You're just looking at them anyway, just like it was in the 80s, Boat, except probably less guns. That's about the only thing I can say is a difference.
Yeah, I probably agree with you. I think that really, I mean, action movies are built on the fact that you have these comic book-like characters, men and women. They need to be larger than life. They need to be perfect physical specimens. If they aren't, the illusion is broken. Like, nobody's going to believe that Batman looks like me. You know, Batman needs to look like a freaking chiseled beast. I mean, I am a chiseled beast, but even more chiseled. So yeah, I agree with you. All right, we move on to Graham W. Vebke. He says, if you could choose to live to 200, would you?
I do choose that.
So yes.
Who's going to say no?
Well, there are some people
that
think
victims
there are some people that think that the world 200 years from now is not going to be an awesome place to live, that we're on sort of a slide into oblivion.
Here's my motto, Boat. And I picked this up. Listen, we don't know once you kick the bucket, who knows what's going to happen? I know you're a religious man. You have faith, which is probably the most beautiful thing you can have on this planet, the ability to have faith in an afterlife and a savior, okay? But if you don't have that, you're a little, like, I'm more of a gambler type. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. You may go to heaven, you may lay in a ditch and nothing happens. Who knows? If I'm still alive, I know at least I'll be alive. So that's my motto. Why take a chance? I'll just stay here and see what happens.
I think for me, I want to live. The quality of my life is more important than the length of my life. Mm-hmm. Like, when you think about, and obviously we differ on this, but I don't want to be one of these people that wastes away the last 10 to 30 years of their life laying in a bed in a nursing home. Like, to me, that's not what I call living a good life. Especially, like, if you don't have anybody that comes to see you, if you're basically just there all the time watching the tube or whatever. So I would rather die, at 75 and be, with my boots on, as they say, rather than live to 200 and have the last 3/4 of that be, basically just kind of laying there.
I understand what you're saying. And I'm not saying, and listen, I can't say that you're wrong. It's your opinion. But that's an easy thing to say when you're a younger, not sick person who has plenty of time left. If you're the sucker in the bed and they're like, well, Fred, We can let you keep on living, or we can kill you. I sure as I'm sitting here, I'm not saying in your particular instance your mind may be changed, but often I think it would be.
All righty. Question 2. If you were guaranteed to learn a foreign language in 30 days, which one would you avoid and which one would you choose and why?
30 days. Which one would I avoid? Well, what do you think on that? I had to ponder this.
Well, I would love to know Japanese. I would love to learn
that's
Japanese.
what I was thinking too. Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of languages I would avoid, I can't think of a single negative reason for knowing a foreign language. That's like one of the things that can only be a positive thing. Like if you communicate with somebody else,
language or something that I'm saying that you could pick one that no one uses, like
yeah, I mean like maybe like Sanskrit or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just seems like to me that's one of the things that I respect about our friends across, not in England because they're just as dumb as we are, but people that live on the continent. One of the things that I respect about them the most is that so many of them speak 3, 4, 5 languages. To me, that's just like the ultimate coolness.
Yeah, because hardly anyone here speaks anything. We barely speak English. I would like to, man, listen, it's tough to choose. Someone mentioned Cantonese. That'd be awesome. I would also like to learn Japanese. Portuguese would be awesome to know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would love to learn Portuguese because I love bossa nova music, and so much of that comes out of Brazil.
Yeah, so there's plenty of good languages. German would be fun to know. There's tons of them, but there you go. We're too dumb to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
We dumb.
All right, Graham rolls on with his third question. He says, what would you do if you knew, this is a good question, what would you do, what's something you would do if you know you would get away with it and no one would ever know it was you?
Wow, I never thought about it, to be honest with you. What, do you have anything off the top of your head?
Yeah, the thing that immediately came to my mind is I would go into somebody who is incredibly rich, like Jeff Bezos. If I could go into his bank account and just take $1 billion, because I think he's worth something like $300 billion or something insane like that. If I could take $1 billion, he'd be perfectly fine the rest of his life, him and his family, from now until the end of the time. Take $1 billion out of that to do with what I would want, and nobody would know it was me.
I think mine would be more of a vengeance play.
Oh,
to be honest
okay.
With you.
Tell us more.
Well, I can't really get into it too much, but to be honest with you, I haven't settled on who would get my wrath, but it would probably be some world leader would get a good hard spanking at the bare minimum. There's a lot of people out there that just need a good slap in the face, Boat, and so it would be nice to be able to deliver said slap and then get away scot-free. I mean, your idea was, I didn't think about it getting financial gain. That'd be nice, too. So.
And it's not just for me. I mean, think about all the good you could do in the world with an extra $1 billion behind you.
Yeah.
Now, it would be ill-gotten gains. To be honest with you, I don't know if my conscience would actually allow it. But if I put on the black hat, if you will.
Come on, Boat. Your conscience wouldn't allow you to get $1 billion.
I don't know. It would be interesting. Sometimes I wonder, if I were ever actually put in a situation like that, how I would react. All right, question 4 from Graham. Graham gave us 4 big questions this week. It says, does it concern you that social media vultures often believe certain verified or partner content producers' words over the facts, and that they then launch deplatform attacks and takedowns on a whim? And do you think that the current state of the platforms is wrong and very broken and favors these people like I do?
Yes. I think I know what he's getting at here. It's funny. This is sort of timely news. I guess what he's saying is, I was just reading something that was in Discord yesterday where a content maker, I guess I always hated the fact that you call yourself a content creator. It seems so impersonal and stupid.
It does. Yeah.
A content creator was being taken to task and given multiple strikes because he had reviewed a game of somebody who didn't like his review, and they were pissed off, and so they were taking him to task and basically saddling with a bunch of baloney, YouTube baloney. Now, I don't know if that's exactly what he's saying, but it is timely. And the answer to that question is, we talked about this earlier, with the many copyright baloney strikes we get for stupid crap like the music from the C64 version of Commando or
Right.
Boat's god-awful Patreon renditions of songs.
That still get picked up by the rights holders.
Let me just say this. I don't think this is news anyway. There's nobody making any money off YouTube anymore because they are double tight. No one ain't making no money. Anyone, you think all this sucker's getting loaded? Even the big players aren't making a ton of cash off YouTube. And then they come in with this crap, with these copyright, this stupid, idiotic copyright stuff. So yes, the platform is an idiot, and the people that do that stuff, they're undermining their own popularity. If there was a alternative to, say, a YouTube or a Twitch right now, they would go. But the problem is there can't be because everyone is subservient to all these people that own all these copyrights, the record industry, the movie industry. And so we're all going to have to just suffer through until something comes along that doesn't give a damn about that. I don't know if that's somewhere in the ballpark of what he was talking about. Do you want to take a stab at this?
Well, the problem is that I have sympathy, of course, for the content creators. I have sympathy for us. But I also have sympathy to some extent for the platforms themselves because they're trying to make a buck, of course. They're in business just like everybody else is. They're also trying to please all of the people who own all of these rights in a copyright system like we have in America, which is completely broken, which was written back in the 70s and doesn't take into account any of the new technology that we've had in the past 50 years. And so everybody is sort of trying to get by as best they can. I'm not saying that that certain things couldn't be done better. Of course there are, but it's a broken system, and it starts with reforming the copyright laws that currently exist in this country because they didn't come about at a time where you would use things in the way that we are using them. And I wrote my entire grad school dissertation on this subject, so I could go on. But it's a broken system, and it starts with reforming copyright law. And the problem is that the big companies like Disney that are making the most bank out of copyright law as it currently stands are also providing the most money to the lawmakers through lobbying.
That's right. You just took. I was waiting for it, and you'd said it. First of all, Disney is one of the companies that just basically rewrote copyright laws to suit it. They just decided, right, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Listen, much like everything else in the States, this is a huge scam. It's a big old scam. What would be awesome is if everyone, all these people that are copyright enforcement hungry, they forget what makes these copyrights, what makes these items desirable. Because they're spoken of, they're talked about, they're reviewed, they're sang about, they're written about. These things exist because the memories of them are kept alive through all these various media points. The same media points that they want to choke out, or they want a piece of the action. I have let me repeat this, I have no sympathy for YouTube, owned by the big, huge Google death machine. I have no sympathy for them because, yes, they're in a sport where they have to enforce these copyright laws, but they're ridiculous about it. It's not like they don't do a bunch of crazy stuff anyway that no one can comprehend. It's not like if Google was above reproach, I'd have a different attitude about this, but they're not. The record companies, movie companies, they've got all this action with our government, like you said, and so ultimately we will never get to a point where we're going to be happy with this because we don't have the jack. Our government is mostly ran by the corporations with the big money. The rest of us are sort of bit players. And the fact that YouTube has an entire platform that is made for them, that we're all making the stuff for them, YouTube barely does anything. They're the ones reaping all the benefit. It's not like they're paying all the people that make the content any money. So why should they change? We could go on. I will let it lie.
Chris Folds asks, what is the longest amount of time you have ever been awake?
52 hours? Yeah, something like that.
So wait, you gotta expound. Tell us the story.
Gosh, what? Well, I wish I could. I don't remember why. There was a reason, but I don't remember what it was. And I remember thinking to myself, my God, I've been awake for I'm sure a girl was involved, and I know driving was involved, but I'm not 100% sure why. It's been so long I don't remember. I'll be honest with you, but I remember thinking to myself, "Wow, I hope I'm never awake for this long again," because it was not good. What about you?
The longest time I've ever been awake was when I went to Korea for the first time.
Yeah.
So I flew direct. Okay, so I'd been awake all day, and then I flew direct from JFK to Seoul, and it was something like, I don't know, 16 hours or so. JFK to Seoul, about 16 hours. And then when I arrived at the airport, I waited for another 8 hours for the bus to pick me up and take me to my new teacher orientation in Korea, at which time I was in a classroom for another 8 hours learning the ropes of teaching in Korea before I was able
Wow.
to go to sleep. So I would
Brutal.
say altogether, it was probably about 30 hours, but it was 30 hours of like crazy cross-world travel, being in a new country for the first time, not knowing what was going on, confusion.
I will say we have both spent 24 straight hours together. I really, it's more like 26
Hmm.
when we did that Amigos
Yeah, the Megathon.
marathon
Hmm.
charity event. And you were a surly lad, my
I do
friend.
not do well without sleep.
No,
I will put that out there right
and
away.
I'm sure I wasn't Commander Fun either. And the footage that's gone from that, part of me would like to see it again, and part of me hopes it never surfaces.
I
Because
agree.
those last 6 hours so were just the dirt worst, but
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's see. Christian Russell asks, if money, work, or family were no object, where in the world would you like to live, or where in the USA would you like to live, if not glorious West Virginia?
I'll tell you something. Wasn't it? Did you just put a thing up that said Finland was once again the happiest people
Yep.
on earth?
Mm-hmm.
Finland's starting to look pretty good, Boat. I see
Mhm.
pictures from up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've been asked this before. I think I've given answers 2 or 3 different times, different answers. But hey, listen, I want to be happy. You know, everyone I've met from up there is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go out in the limb here, despite I've never been there, and say Finland, Boat. In terms of the USA, listen, I would probably stick around here, but I would probably be somewhere more remote. You know, like
Right.
a top rope. God, a top like a top of the mountain, sort of
You know when you're driving on the interstate just past Taze Valley, and there's that house up on the hill on the left side? Like
on your way to
it's just
Milton.
no, on the going the other way. You go just past the Taze Valley exit, past all the development and the big lots and all that stuff. And there's that big house on the hill. Would you like to live up there, someplace like
Too
that?
close to the internet or the interstate.
Yeah.
I've lived right near the interstate, and I don't care what kind of house you've got. When a big truck comes rumbling through there, it knocks your drink off the table. No good. So yeah,
Yeah,
you
you're
got to
right.
get further away.
For me, for a long time, not really for a long time, but for a while, I've thought that I might want to live in Japan full time. But the more I think about it, the more I think the language barrier would really come into play, because I'm not getting any younger. And the amount of time and effort that it takes to learn a foreign language would probably be beyond me at this point in my life. Not because I couldn't do it, but just because I'm incredibly lazy.
Yeah.
So I would probably go for someplace international, but still having a big expat community. I would probably go for somewhere like the south of France. You get the Mediterranean, you get the ocean, you get like the really nice houses. It's my favorite place I've ever been. I went and I spent about a week out there in Perpignan in the
It's
south of
expensive
France.
out there too. You
It is,
pay the big
yeah,
money.
and so money's no object though in the question. So if money were no object, I would probably do that. In the U.S., I mean, I've told you this before. I could live anywhere I wanted in the country. Right? I have enough years as a teacher. I could get hired anywhere like that. But I like living in West Virginia. I really like living here. So I don't know where
the
I'd go.
proximity to me. I think that
It is.
it pays the bills there. So well done.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah, as long as I can live within 5 miles of Irene Circle, that's all I care about.
That's right.
All right. Net Surge asks, if you could only have one 8-bit micro, what would it be? I'll answer this one first.
All right.
Commodore 64, no question. The breadth of the library alone makes that the obvious answer. I mean, you can play any genre you want, and the game, there are a billion games. The machine had like a 12 or 13-year lifespan.
Yeah.
And the graphics are serviceable. The music is outstanding. I can't think of any reason why I wouldn't go with the Commodore 64 if I could only choose one.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, Boat, and this is recent knowledge. The system, and now I love a lot of the 8-bits, the ZX and the Coco and et cetera, Atari. I'm gonna pick the freaking MSX, Boat. That
Not a
thing's
bad choice.
it's like having 5 different computers on one system, man. It's got ZX Spectrum games. It's got Amstrad games. It's got Commodore 64 games. It's got PC games. It's got everything. It's got good sound. It can have good graphics.
I would have gone with the MSX, but I think that a lot of the games that I'd be into playing would have to have translations because they were in Japanese.
They exist, though.
They exist, though. Yeah. The same thing with the Sharp, the X68000. I'd love to get into that, but everything's
that's a 16-bit
Japanese.
too. You can't use that one.
Well, speaking of that, his follow-up question is same question, but for a 16-bit micro, which would you choose?
So you would choose the 68,000? I don't know enough about that one to pick.
I don't know. No, I wouldn't. I was just saying, like, that's another one that has a bunch of untranslated games. It would be difficult for me to go with anything other than, well, I mean, does like a DOS machine count? Is that 16-bit?
Yeah, you could pick a DOS machine. I wouldn't, but you can.
It would be hard
because
for me
it would
not
suck.
Well, it would be. When does the 16-bit era for DOS machines end? What year?
Listen, I'm not the archivist. I don't have any idea.
You're a big computer guy.
You've got a chat room full of geniuses here. Get one of them to figure it out for you.
Okay, well, you can
I'll
go ahead and
answer while you're jacking around. Listen, I've played a lot of 16-bit systems, my friend. You're going to be hard-pressed. You're going to be hard to find something that's going to get any better than the good old school Amiga, my friend. Amiga action. Great games, great music, great art programs, utilities that you could use. It's the Amiga, baby. We're the Amigos. I'm Amigo, and I'm choosing the Amiga. I'm a homer.
Okay, so the chat says that the 286 is 16-bit. So yeah, if we're limiting ourselves to the 286
please
and
pick
before,
that.
then yeah, I would go with the Amiga 100% of the time. 100%
But you
of the time.
wait a minute, Boat. Aren't you the same jerk type that badmouths the Amiga at every turn?
Listen, in the world of 16-bit micros, the one-eyed man is king.
You could have picked the FM Towns.
Yeah, I could if I wanted to play lots of adult content games. Next up, and our final question comes from Christian Russell. He says, what game would you say gave you the most satisfaction in completing?
I've completed so few. I will say, just because, and I'm gonna claim I completed this, I got screwed. I have tried for years to beat Pitfall 2. I've tried for so long. And when I finally did it, I was so happy. Why did I pick the Atari 8-bits to do it on? Because there's extra levels that weren't in the rest of the releases. But I did complete the game. I'm going to say that one comes to mind. Right. And also, I would say Wings. I felt a lot of satisfaction just because that was such a cool game. But yeah, I'm going to go with Pitfall 2, Boat.
For me, it was when I beat probably Final Fantasy 3. This was a game. You know how these JRPGs are. You can put 100 hours into them like nothing. And the payoff, I mean, the ending of that game is a full 30-minute long like cartoon episode. I beat it, and then I beat it again, and then I made my mom watch it because I thought it was so cool.
When you say cartoon, do you mean like endless dialogue boxes that just sprout over and over?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Before you got here, since you were running late, I was playing Castlevania for the ZX 128.
It wasn't as bad as that.
And
that is insane.
On the first level, on the screen was
guy.
a novel. Let me tell you, people are like, oh, I've got 600 hours in Final Fantasy 23. Well, there's a reason for that. It's the same crap over and over, and they just stick in a novel. That's not that 600 hours of gameplay. That's not gameplay. You're going out and fighting. The fighting is so lame. They're just little static screens with numbers flying. That's not extra hours of gameplay. That's just, it's filler, man. I can't figure out why people get into that so much. And I haven't played your Final Fantasy, so it might be the best. I'm just saying, I don't get that. I never have understood why that was a thing. But school me, Bo. What made that game stand out?
I thought that the thing that I like about Japanese role-playing games is that they have lots of characters, you visit lots of locations, and you have a story that is like a real story. Now, it's a lot of text, it's a lot of reading, and if you don't like that, then that's not going to be your bag. But I like the way that you have character progression. I like the way that you're constantly, upgrading your equipment and stuff like that. I love the statistics side, and I also love the story side. But the big thing for me is that it's a marriage of really lush, beautiful graphics and, some of the best soundtracks that have ever been created for a video game. Because when you have a game that's that epic, you're going to want to have, the soundtrack for Chrono Trigger is something like 64 tracks, and they're all fully realized pieces of classical music.
I like good music. It's, Mitsuyama summed it up best earlier when we were going through the Castlevania, and he said, if I wanted to read this much, I'd have read a book.
Well, I played that thing on the video that I made for the Mister last night.
Oh, did you?
The ZX Spectrum 4.
It looks and sounds great. I will say that.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That one particular part is ridiculous. So I do want to go back to that game though, because it looked really good.
Yeah,
it
played way better than the Amiga version. Holy smokes! Listen, when it comes to the RPG thing, I am a mutant. Okay,
well, you don't have to like every genre. It's okay.
I'm invalidating my own opinion here, so bear with me. I am a twitchy, easily bored doofus. Okay, I don't like repetitive tasks. I don't like action that's not action, where you watch other things happen and you sort of click some boxes.
Right, indirect control.
And I'm not saying that's me. Okay,
sure.
It's the same reason I don't like simulations that much. Like a turn-based stuff or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'd say the reason I stopped playing chess. I don't have the patience for it, and I don't just like to be idle. It just drives me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a character flaw, and so I rag on JRPGs and some of this other stuff. And to each his own. Listen, I like to play every stupid fighting game there is. I'll play them all. And I know they're crap, and I'll still play them. But it's just the sort of twitchy, arcadey crap that I'm used to. And I never have been able to sit down and get into the story. Because part of the reason that people tell me, the music, that's great. But, at the end of the day, when you're playing one of these Final Fantasy games or whatever, you're investing yourself in the story. I like a good story. I'm an RPG guy. That's just probably another reason I don't like them. And I can understand a good story, but you have to invest in that story. And I've never played one of those to any length to where I got to the point where I was invested in the story.
Sure.
And I think that's the name of the game. The rest of the gameplay is sort of irrelevant. You have to be invested in the story, and if you're not, it's sort of like faith.
These games are built on doing repetitive tasks. Like the whole concept of grinding levels, where you go into a place and you have random encounters, and you literally just walk around a small area and wait for monsters to attack you.
Yeah.
And then save up enough gold to buy the sword that gives you 12 attack points instead of 10.
Yeah.
I totally get why people don't like these games.
Yeah, I hate that.
And that's fine. I just happen to like them.
To put it in perspective, okay, and this is something that's not the least bit JRPG, but to me it falls in the same category. Something like a Diablo, all right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like looting. I don't like collecting gold. I don't like to go to the store. I don't like the inventory. I don't want to run a party. I don't want any of that crap, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Doom. I want to go through, shoot, and kill with a very basic inventory that I don't have to do anything about.
Yeah.
And stuff and you wouldn't count, Diablo is not the same as Final Fantasy 3. It's not. But the core elements that I don't like are in both.
Absolutely. Now, it does interest me though, because isn't EverQuest also built on some of those same mechanics?
I hate it. I hated that. I hate crafting. Okay, crafting.
But you played a lot of EverQuest.
I never crafted it, and because you could buy stuff. But you're right. But I never did that stuff. Even COH has some sort of crafting elements. I never do them. I just don't like it. I don't want to sit in a game and sew or make pottery.
Let's take the crafting out of it.
Yeah.
In EverQuest, you have to go beat 1,000 little bad guys to
Yeah.
get enough gold to buy the next big sword or
Yeah.
to gain the level to be able to do the next thing.
Horrible.
To me, that seems very similar.
It is exactly correct, and it's horrible, and I hated it. The thing that was like, you ever sit down and play a game, and you're literally putting yourself on autopilot, and you're just killing time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would do. I would play the game, and I would go get all the bat skulls or the stupid crap I need to get the next thing. I'd get it, but I didn't enjoy it. What I enjoyed was the camaraderie, getting together a party to make it more D&D. Let me ask you: you've played role playing. Have you ever played a D&D game where I, as your GM, said, "Boat, we're gonna start the quest, but first go out and gather 50 squirrel hides"? Well, no, because that would suck. So why is that in the game, man? Who wants to do that? And the reason it's in the game, as we both know, is to give the game more length. I would say give the game more length, give you something to do, because it can't all be questing in a game.
Yeah, and I agree with you that the fact that these games are called role-playing games, they are not the same as pen and paper role-playing games. They're totally different. And so, and you can like one and not like the other.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason I've always had trouble with a quote unquote role playing game on a computer. It is absolutely not the same.
Yeah.
And to call it that, even the D&D, the gold box, all that crap, you can say that that's what they are, but they're not. Now, I haven't played enough of the newer stuff. It may be much more like a role playing game. But anytime you have to gather stuff or do side quests or crap. As a DM myself, I'm not sending suckers on side quests. I got something written up. We're going to do it. That where there's if they do a side quest, they're screwing me. I want them to do the main quest. And so with that sort of mentality, I think that's part of the reason I've had trouble getting into stuff like computerized role playing games and JRPGs.
Yeah,
I mean,
I guess when I think about grinding and things like that, is a lot of the times, just like you, I would put on a record or something like that. And this is something that I can do while I'm listening to this music. But at the same time, because you've spent so much time doing this thing, it makes you invested and it makes you care more about it just because you put that much amount of time in. And that goes beyond anytime you put that much time in anything, you care more about it. But yeah, to me now, would I ever go back and play any Japanese role-playing game now? No, because I've moved past the time in my life where I have 6 or 7 hours of free time a day where I can put on a They Might Be Giants record and grind out a couple levels. So.
Remember when you used to ask me, why do you like City of Heroes? One of the main reasons, yes, it's superheroes, you have powers, but one of the main things I liked about it was there was no looting at all. There was no
Which is interesting. It has to be one of the few MMOs that doesn't have any looting.
You would pick up enhancements for your powers occasionally. Or inspirations just give you like little hit point boosts and stuff. But I mean, you didn't loot them; you just got them. They came when you didn't do anything. You didn't have to use them. And I don't like the baloney. Okay, I've got a rat bone. I've got a stack of rat bones now. Okay, I got 20 rat bones. I don't care. I don't care about that. I want to go punch the bad guy or shoot him. And so I cannot get invested in games, which I have. I've played EQ and EQ2, World of Warcraft. I've played all these games, but that was the thing that was always the hitch with me. That stuff, anytime there's something I have to get, and when I finally get the last part, I'm like, oh, thank God I got that out of the way. That means I didn't have fun getting to that point.
Right. At that point, the game is work and not a game anymore.
You got it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us for this edition of Ask the Amigos. As always, if you're a member of our Discord community, by supporting any of the shows on the Amigos Retro Gaming Network, you can leave us a question in the Ask the Amigos Discord channel. We'd love to hear from you for next month's edition. And until then, adios.